Hey everybody, welcome, welcome to Hidden Horror. Thank you for spending this time with me. I appreciate that. Let's get started. Good afternoon. Hey everybody, welcome to Hidden Horror. So, I kind of told you guys I was starting a series, a collection of cases that I feel they fall into a category that is very dark. The facts are horrendous. Just the saddest cases that you ever could learn about. And I think we should study them, learn about them to try to prevent these type of acts to happen ever in society. So I'm going to put up a banner and just let you know for this series that I have labeled Monster, it's not going to be for everybody, but it's going to pick out and highlight some of the most heinous cases in the United States, primarily in the United States. I have selected a few more that I want to cover, but today I'm going to bring the case of Chad Doerman. This is a recent case back of a little bit over a year ago. And I don't use these words lightly, but I'm going to say sadistically, he executed, killed, shot his three sons. A lot of people, when you hear this type of case, you want to know why. Why did this happen? How did this happen? Was there signs? Some people say that Chad Doerman, that he snapped. That was his father's opinion. As I'm going through and I'm watching the news and I'm reading and I'm searching and I'm learning and reviewing cases, I do feel that there is a pattern that's emerging. And I see two things that are kind of working sometimes together. One is a person can be homicidal, but sometimes they can also be suicidal and they come together. I believe that the mindset of someone that's homicidal, they're leaning towards unaliving someone else. But if they are working in tandem as their mind is also suicidal, I don't think that they have concern about their life. They're willing to risk their own life. For example, the Ethan Crumbley mass shooting. In his writings, his intention was to complete the mass shooting, harm as many people as he could, but he did not want to be harmed. And he said he would surrender, he would go to prison for life. So I believe in his case, he was only homicidal, wanting to harm others, but he was not suicidal, willing to risk his own life. So I believe in the Chad Doerman case, I think there was a lot of things going on with him mentally. I think that is a big part of the answer. Part of it is the why. How can we change this trajectory? What can we do to create the change? We have to look at the mindset. That's part of it. There's a lot of other parts, and I know I was going to do an individual video just talking about the different parts. But what I'm finding is, as I'm talking about the cases, I'm actually talking about the different things that we can do. But to me, part of it is the mindset, the mental health. Some people are walking around and they have disorders coupled with the homicidal or and suicidal thoughts. Again, I believe in the Ethan Crumpley case, it was primarily only homicidal. He did not want to be unalived. Chad Doerman is a little bit different. I definitely believe that he was homicidal with the intentions on unaliving, murdering his three sons. I read somewhere that he also felt like because his wife at the time was trying to stop him, he felt like he should have unalived her as well. I do not feel that he was suicidal. The reason that I feel this way in his case was after he completed, and I'm using completed because I believe in his mind and his plan and planning, he only had intentions of unaliving his three sons. His wife was there and his stepdaughter was also present. He did not try to harm them. He did not try to, with intention, to kill them. I believe that he was not suicidal because after he completed his plan to kill his three sons, he went, he sat down, he placed the weapon, the gun down, and he waited for law enforcement. He did not try to run. He did not try to hide. He did not try to destroy the evidence. He did not take any type of position to prevent law enforcement from detaining him, from arresting him. He didn't go and barricade himself in the house. He didn't take the weapon pointed at law enforcement. He didn't threaten law enforcement. He didn't do anything. It leads me to think he did not want law enforcement to have to use force. He, if all accounts to assess the situation, he surrendered. He didn't give them any issue to use any deadly force. So I believe in his case, as well as Ethan Crumbley, there was only homicidal thoughts, plans, not suicidal. Now, I am going to bring you in my next case what I feel was homicidal plus suicidal intentions, thoughts, the mindset. But again, we are going over these cases that I'm labeling monster because we need to learn what can we do in our communities, in society, in the laws that are created, in the planning, in the placement of funding. What services should we be providing people? What are the needs in the community to lessen, to reduce this violent crime, with the use of guns, because it has a great impact and we have to learn from these horrendous cases. This case is pretty sad. The next case I'm going to bring you is an older case that just had a 40-year anniversary. It is extremely shocking. But I believe we can learn a lot on the basis of trying to look at the mindset Is it a homicidal mindset, a suicidal mindset, or both combined? I think when it's homicidal and suicidal, it makes the actor extremely dangerous, volatile, unpredictable, which means you can't guess, you can't estimate what they're willing to do, what they're going to do, because they're not just homicidal, wanting to harm as many people, they're also suicidal, which means they're willing to risk it all, up and including their own life. That's what makes them, to me, extremely dangerous. And we need to learn more about these actors. I feel that in crime, in criminology, we can take past events, past actors, study them, study what they did. Why did they do it? What were they thinking? What was their home life? What was their environment? What were they doing? What was leading up to this extraordinary event? In my next case, I'm going to try to get into the mindset of the actor and detail why I think some of the things I think about these cases that I'm labeling monster. This case is different. The first case I did, that was different. The Dakota Collins case is very different from this case where, in all accounts, this was a normal family life. These kids, they were very young, 3, 4, and 7. And I believe at this very tender age, you're just doing normal things. It's a family, it's a large family, 4 kids. Um, they're just doing basic things, playing sports, going fishing, doing things with mom and dad. Mom's just a homemaker. She's at home rearing and raising these 4 kids. Dad goes out and he works. I believe that dad, he had a lot of issues. I think that he had some mental health issues that were not addressed. I believe he had them prior to meeting and marrying his wife. And I think what was happening with him, it grew. It grew. His thoughts, his whatever disorder he had or has, it made him turn against the people that loved him the most. His sons, they adored him. They spent time with him. He spent time with them. He did activities with them. He was in the home. He was considered a wonderful father, albeit he had issues under that surface that were not addressed. So I'm going to just give you a warning before I get started. This case, like all of the cases that I'm going to bring forth in this monster series, they're very hard to deal with. The Dakota Collins case was extremely hard to deal with because of the level of abuse, beatings that he was subjected to on a daily basis. I think the difference is with these 3 little boys and their mother and sister, they couldn't see this coming. This was not something that they imagined. And It was almost if evil was working. So this is my last warning. We're going to get started now. Okay. So I have a lot of videos that I'm playing today. They're all linked on the Hidden Horror Facebook page. There's 2 articles that we're going to go over, but there's several videos to demonstrate what happened in this Chad Doerman case, and moreover, why did he kill his 3 sons? I still don't have quite the answer from the reports, but I'm guessing that there was mental health issues existing underlining his actions. We will see. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get started. The first video is labeled Chad Doerman Chilling 911 Call. It's by Crime Talk, and it's about 3.5 minutes long. Last chance if you need to click off. It's going to be one video after another of very disturbing information regarding the deaths of these 3 little boys. So I'm going to get started now. Thank you for checking out this video.
Where's your emergency? There's a girl running down the street saying that her stepfather is killing everyone in her family. It's on the corner of where there's a body shop and the fire department. Do you know what road this is?
Okay, what's your name?
Give it into the fire department.
What's your name?
Do you know what road this is? Laura Lindell Road.
You said what?
It's Laura Lindell Road.
Okay, and what did the female say to you?
And she says that her stepfather is killing everybody in her house. I did. I'm on the phone with them right now.
Did you say how or what was happening?
I asked her to get in the car with me, and she said she couldn't leave her family. But I think she ran to the fire department.
So she went to the fire station. What did she look like?
She's probably young.
So they're saying that the boy's stepsister, she's saying that she did not want to leave her family. Can you imagine what she saw that day? I mean, I know what the reports reported, what she witnessed. But she's still saying she does not want to leave the boys and her mother. But she's going for help. She's trying to get them help. Her mother told them to run, to try to get away, escape out of this house after the first shots.
Young teenager, probably like 16 maybe, with long blonde hair. And she has a black dog.
Did she say anything about a baby?
I don't know about no baby. She said she just couldn't leave her family. But I see a car running around. I'm sorry?
Do you see anything from the house?
So I drove down the road a little bit, so I was afraid that I was going to get shot myself since I interacted with her face to face. So I'm just about maybe 3 houses down. But she's like waiting at the corner. I don't know what she's doing, but I kind of still see her in the corner. But I saw a car kind of came around and whipped around, so I'm not exactly sure if that's him or if he's chasing her or not. I'm sorry?
What kind of vehicle was it?
I saw it was like a gray. Did you see that car whip around? It's one of the fire department guys.
Okay.
I think maybe a fire department guy. It was a regular kind of Focus-looking gray car.
Okay, we have help on the way. Thank you so
Dark
much.
gray.
If you
Okay,
see
all right.
anything else, call us back, okay, and steer clear of the area at this time.
Okay. This said stay clear from the area.
Yeah, which
but I think that's the house right there.
Oh, are you inside where you're safe?
I'm standing outside where I can see the lady.
Okay.
I'm across the street at Lindale Automotive.
Can you tell how many people have been shot?
I think 2 children.
Okay. All right. I need. What was
that
your
I've
name,
seen.
sir?
My name is.
What's your last name? All right. We've got help on the way. If you could just try to stay inside so that you're safe.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Chase is 3 years old, Hunter is 4 years old, and Clayton is 7 years old. 3 young boys. Just being kids. Let's get to the next video. The next video is the dash cam from the officers as they're arriving on scene. It's going to show Mr. Doerman's arrest. The video is 12 minutes, but we're going to go to 7 minutes because the first 7 minutes is the officer driving to the scene. So we're going to fast forward that to about 7 minutes in. Okay.
Your child needs these 3 key factors to get into an Ivy League or top 25.
The female that went to the firehouse is advising them that the male shot the entire family. You're correct.
So this is very important that the dispatcher is communicating with the law enforcement. It helps to prepare them for what's happening on scene. What are they coming upon? Who's there? Are there any weapons? Is there an active threat? How many suspects? What are they doing? What do they look like? Do we have a description? Do we know the name? What are we walking into? Because police officers, they never know. They don't know what to expect.
Where's he at?
Okay, I want you to see the weapons that the police officers have.
You got him on the porch.
We've asked, that's the last place we've been told.
You show me your hands now! Stand up and walk
Okay, you can kind of see it. I want them to come out a little bit more.
Stand up now! Walk towards us! Stand up with your hands up!
So the officers are seeing Chad Doerman. He's sitting down. I wanted to get him framed the weapons, but they have high-powered weapons. This next case that I'm going to bring you for the Monster series is going to talk about pretty much back in the 80s, the worst mass shooting. And it's going to talk about how that caused so many changes in law enforcement. One of the major changes is law enforcement was being outgunned back then in the 80s. And it made them do something about all of these high powered weapons, and the police are coming onto a scene with just a basic 9mm gun with just a few rounds. Whereas the suspect may have multiple high powered weapons. So now we see, due to the reports, the law enforcement now, and this was back in June of 2023, they have high powered weapons matching the suspect because they were outgunned back in the 80s. They didn't have enough firepower strong enough. Okay, so I wanted you to see that.
Stand up now!
So as you can see, they don't have any foliage, any protection. They're in the open. And by him, Chad Doerman, having a very high-powered weapon, he could easily, if he had a scope, aim for these officers and hurt them. So they need to get some coverage to protect themselves. But again, Chad Doerman, he was literally sitting, waiting for law enforcement.
His name is Chad Doerman. Chad Doerman.
I know, but we can't.
If people need first aid and he's not complying, you know he's a shooter, shoot him.
You heard what they said? I'll rewind it. They said, we know he's the shooter. Shoot him. If he resists, shoot him. I'm going to play that again.
Chad Doerman.
I know, but we can't.
If people need first aid and he's not complying, you know he's a shooter, shoot him.
He said, if he's not complying, we know he's the shooter, shoot him.
We gotta find cover first. We ain't no good if we ain't safe
Right.
ourselves. Hey, no. We need to come from this side.
The reason I'm showing you this video, I'm taking this time up, is because I want you to see how law enforcement, it's two officers, how they're in the dark. They're both pulling up. Looks like one was already there, probably waiting for that backup because they're not hearing any shots. They're not seeing anything going on. So pretty much he must have felt that it was over, and he's got eyes on the suspect, and he's sitting there with the gun placed down on the porch. Very high and stressful, intense environment.
Side where we can see them. Don't take cover behind her. We see them. We're going to approach from this side. We got cover. Right here.
6 number 29 and 63 attack that.
Show us your fucking hands now. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up now. Stand up. Stand the fuck up.
Go ahead and fly whenever any units can advise.
Get your hands up here. Cover 21. It's in there.
Those guys can confirm that there's people that need first aid, and that's the shooter who's not complying. They need to take care of the
I got it.
victims. They have to shoot him and shoot out.
Man, I ain't trying to hurt nobody. We're completely sober. Never did drugs a day
63,
in my
we're
life.
21. Get the EMS over here.
Well, I did drugs with a split, but I don't do drugs now. I'm sober. I'm not trying to fight you. Yellen,
63.
get your butt inside. Yellen, get your butt inside.
We on primary?
Now.
29, we got 3
Main.
down.
3 kids down, 16
Yellen.
63, we're 21.
Knock
Have
it off.
EMS respond over here.
you're clear. They're being advised.
Robert 34, just started mass casualty response.
63, do you want them to respond to the Laurel Lindale address? Where exactly do you need them?
We're right in the front yard.
That's the children's mother. She said that he took my life from me. Those kids, they probably meant everything to her. And it's like your life is over, it's destroyed. You know, how do you go on being a mom with 4 kids and you lose them like this? They didn't even get a chance at life. 3, 4, and 7 by the hands of their own father.
What are you doing, man?
Hey, are you copying all this? Can I roll over? I ain't gonna hurt you. I ain't gonna hurt nobody.
You got anything on you?
No, I ain't got nothing, man. Phone, that's it. I ain't mad. I ain't nothing. Just make sure that dog don't come out. I don't think he'll bite you. Just don't reach for him and try to grab him and pet him.
All right.
He won't bite you.
What's going on, man?
Nothing. Can I stand up? It's kind of
You hear,
I'm gonna
I
get
ain't
you.
gonna
hear
do
the
that
mom?
anyway. You can do whatever you want.
Mom is saying, they're so little, they're so little.
Here. You the only one else inside the house?
What?
You the only one else inside
Yeah,
the house?
yeah.
Sit down right here.
My daughter, she ran over to the fire department.
Sit down.
It's my stepdaughter.
Put him in the cage.
Listen, look.
From breaking news to feel-good stories, Local 12 has it all.
I'm sorry, that video was by Local 12. So I want to start the first article. I want to introduce you to what happened that day. You heard the 911 call. Now you see the police. They're on the scene. Mr. Doerman is not giving them a hard time. He's not showing any resistance. He's coherent. He said, I'm not going to hurt anybody. I don't have anything. This is why I say I do not think he was suicidal. I only feel that Mr. Doerman was homicidal. Okay. I'm going to go to the first article. The article is by WLWT5. It's written by Karen Johnson and is dated August 6, 2024. It's titled Days After Chad Doerman's Guilty Plea, Prosecutors Walk Through Investigation. Days after a Clermont County father admitted to murdering his 3 young sons and was sentenced to life in prison without parole, prosecutors walked the public through the investigation. They said, leading up to the shooting, the Doerman family was living a happy, normal life. I'm going to put their picture up because I am now frozen. No, I guess I'm not. Okay, I apologize for being frozen. Chad Doerman even coached the oldest son in baseball the night before the shooting, and the entire family was there. On the morning of June 15th, 2023, Doerman left for work around 7 a.m. On his way to work, he searches on YouTube for a song titled Happy in Hell. Clermont County Prosecutor Mark Takovi said, part of the lyrics to Colt Ford's song is between happy and hell, that's where I'm living now. Later that morning, Doerman talked to his mother. He expressed to her, not to Laura, that he was having some confusing feelings. Takovi said. At the advice of his mother, prosecutors said Doerman drove to Kroger to visit the little clinic. He said he is seen on store surveillance walking in wearing the same clothes he was wearing when he killed his sons, 7-year-old Clayton, 4-year-old Hunter, and 3-year-old Chase several hours later. Doerman is seen waiting about 2 minutes at the little clinic's counter before he leaves. On his way home, prosecutors said he bought a 16-ounce Bud Light. Once at home, they said he played with his sons while his wife Laura made lunch. While eating lunch, oddly, the defendant says to Laura, "This will be my last good meal," Takovi said. Takovi said Laura Doerman was concerned her husband was contemplating suicide. 3:30, 3:45, he begins to read the Bible to Hunter. He's walking around the house with the Bible mumbling, "Chad knows what's right. Chad knows what's right," Takovi said. Shortly before he kills his kids, Doerman calls his father and makes the statement that Clayton is going to be the hardest one. The family went into the bedroom to nap. Oh, it just hurts. It hurts. It hurts. He calls his mom. He calls his dad with these statements. You know, we cannot overlook these red flags, these warnings, because there's a little time to do something about them. The family went into the bedroom to nap. Suddenly, after lying down, the defendant jumps up, grabs the .22 rifle from the safe, and terror fills the room. As Laura is screaming, the boys are screaming. Laura is frightened. He is about to kill himself, Takovi said. Instead, Chad Doerman murdered their 3 boys despite Laura Doerman and her daughter's efforts to save the children. After shooting the children, Chad Doerman placed their bodies next to each other in the yard. He was arrested with Clayton's blood on his shirt. When in the interrogation room, a detective with the Clermont County Sheriff's Office asked, "Did you shoot your son?" Chad Doerman said no. The detective asked who did. Chad Doerman said, "I don't remember." 12 days later, after denying that he shot the boys, Chad Doerman seemed to find the publicity humorous in a recorded jail call with his brother. "Hey, they tough. Hitler was big dude. Yeah, I'm matching him," Chad Doerman said. Prosecutors said prior to June 15th, Chad Doerman was never diagnosed, treated, or prescribed any meds for mental illness. The defendant made a variety of statements to law enforcement which would indicate that he knew what he was doing at the time and were not consistent with someone who was in the throes of a delusion, said Assistant Prosecutor Lara Barron Allen. Laura Doerman released the following statement to the public. "If you are struggling with thoughts of self-harm or thoughts of harming others, or if you know of anyone who is, please reach out. You will not be judged. Help is available to you. Call 988 or go to your nearest hospital. Violence is never the solution. Okay, we're going to go to our next video. It's going to be more details revealed, and Mr. Doerman's bond, it was requested that it be set at $20 million. So I'm going to share my screen now, and we'll watch this video. This video was provided by Local 12. It's titled "Bond Set at $20 million for Chad Doerman, charged with killing 3 young sons."
State of Our is Chad Doerman, 2023 CRA 1975. This matter is before the court today for purposes of bond hearing. Mr. Callum, you were here on behalf of Mr. Doerman. Mr. DeCalvi, Mr. Gadd.
A bond of $75,000 with order conditions will be imposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeCalvi.
Judge, at this point, I'm going to let Mr. Gast handle the bond on our behalf. Thank you.
Good morning, Judge. Good morning. Judge, we've got law enforcement with us here today. Our office has been involved. Lots of people in our office have been involved with law enforcement throughout yesterday, afternoon, and evening, all the way through this morning. And the facts I have for you at this point are as follows. The trauma that this man has inflicted on his family, the community, law enforcement, first responders, and all of the rest of us who have any idea what's going on here is unspeakable. There's been a full admission in this case, Judge. The case is still new. We're still discovering facts. Incomprehensible cruelty. The father that stands before you lined up his 3 young boys, and he executed them in his own home with a rifle. They were ages 3, 4, and 7, Judge. In an act of desperation to save her children, the mother at some point grabbed the gun. The father was able to flee into a field near the home. And again, we know from his admission, father hunted that boy down, drug him back to the property, and executed him in front of witnesses. The mother was shot through the hand in her attempt to protect her children. To just begin to imagine their fear. This was the man that every day they woke up looking to for protection, love, guidance in all things. The man they trust more than any other person on earth. The person they rely upon to keep them safe from harm. He was their world. He was their guardian. And he executed them in cold blood. We know that from his admission. One of the most monstrous, craven, cowardly acts that will ever be our misfortune to see. To make things even more disturbing, Judge, this was no haphazard act. Again, by his own admission, he planned the act on a whim. He's confessed to what I believe is the worst crime, at least I hope, that I'll see in my lifetime. I hope it's the worst fact pattern that ever comes before this court. Judge, it's important for the court to know, and Monroe Township Fire and EMS and other first responders bravely respond to the scene where they don't know what's going on. They did not know what they're facing, and they come into a scene that no one can ever be prepared for. No law enforcement training, no training of any kind prepares you for this. It's easy to forget that these are men and women with families, children, feelings, emotions. They're not some automaton performing a delegated function. They're people, 10-year-old children. They held these boys in their arms, knowing there was nothing they could do to save them. How long do those scars last? The day you wake up from that, and did he have access to a weapon? Yes, obviously he did. The weight of the evidence against the defendant at this point, Judge, we stand here with a full admission of the defendant. That also goes to the confirmation of the defendant's identity, and witnesses on scene did see at least part of what happened. Next, the court is to consider the likelihood this person would return the court if a bond were issued. Again, this is the most heinous crime with the most severe penalty under the law that we presented to the grand jury. That alone would be a major factor in discouraging a person from availing themselves to this court or any other. And the thought to flee and the likelihood of flight is great in the state's opinion. The danger he poses to the community is a factor that this court can consider. And I think with the facts in front of you, Judge, we can't name a person that poses a greater threat to the community. As his prior record goes, Judge, it is fairly minimal. He was charged with domestic violence in 2010. He is not, to my knowledge, on probation committee control. Judge, the facts of this case are hopefully like no other we will ever see. When this case gets indicted in the court of common pleas, I am certain that a no bond hearing will be held, and I would hope that would be granted. But at this point, this juncture, we're going to ask this court to issue a bond we've never asked for before. I'm going to ask for a bond of $20 million. I hope I never need to request such a bond again.
Thank you. Date for preliminary hearing?
The date for the preliminary hearing, Judge, is 6/26.
No objection. The preliminary hearing will be set for June 26th at 1 p.m. At this point in time, bond's going to be set in the amount of $20 million cash or surety. Anything else at this time, Mr. Guest?
No, Judge.
Mr. Dale? Mr. Kalman, anything further?
Nothing at this time.
All right, thank you.
So I want to go over Mr. Doerman's father. He gave a statement in support of his son and believing that he snapped. But I don't think so. I don't think he snapped. I look at the behaviors that led up to him executing his sons, and I really didn't want to do this, but I'm going to share a video by the Law and Crime Network. They did an exceptional job covering this story, and I think it's worthwhile going through that video because it's very detailing. Some of the things that aren't really coming out is when the first shooting in the bedroom happened, Laura, his wife at the time, they're now divorced, they struggled over the gun, and he ended up shooting her hand, one of her fingers, and he executed his first son there. She screamed, mom screamed for the boys to run, to get out of the house. Mr. Doerman then chases the two other boys down and executes them. It's very, very brutal. So I'm going to use that Law and Crime Network video because it details it just exceptionally. And I want you to know the details. Now, before we do the Law and Crime Network video, I'm going to play the video about Mr. Doerman's father and what he had to say. So let me share my screen. Just 1 second. Okay. This video is provided by WCPO9. It's titled, Father of the Man That Confessed to Killing His 3 Sons Says He Just Snapped. This video is about 2 minutes long.
Father confesses to murdering his 3 sons. We are hearing from Chad Doerman's father tonight. A judge set Chad Doerman's bond at $20 million, which is the highest bond ever set by prosecutors. Chad's father, Keith, spoke to me on the phone tonight, who says he is angry at his son, but at the same time is defending his son's character and feels something bad happened to him.
They won't let you talk to your son?
Keith Doerman, now living in Florida, said he came back to Ohio Thursday night after he found out what happened that day on Laurel Lindale Road in Monroe Township, but said he's not allowed to talk to his son. Chad Doerman confessed to shooting and killing his 3 sons execution style. Chad's father tells us this is completely out of character for Chad, saying his son isn't violent. I don't know what went on.
Let me pause it here. Do you remember me reporting that Chad talked to his dad the day of the shooting, and he told his dad the hardest is going to be Clayton? These are red flags. These are indicators. He told mom, even though you're in Florida, hey, call the local police, call mom, call your kid's mother and let them know. Try to intervene. What do you mean by saying it's going to be the hardest on Clayton? What does that mean? You know, you have to know the mindset of someone. He said it, he knew it, he planned it, he prepared for it. He was definitely experiencing some type of mental health breakdown
in his personal life. It's a shocker to us. We didn't see it coming. He just snapped. I could tell in his eyes he's hollow inside. That wasn't Chad standing at the arraignment. I mean, that was not him. Contrary to what the elder Doerman said, this is what Assistant Claremont County Prosecutor David Gast said in court Friday.
We know that one of the boys was able to flee into a field near the home. And again, we know from his admission, father hunted that boy down, drug him back to the property, and executed him in front of witnesses.
So let me just stop it there. All of the kids were in the bed with mom and with dad, the boys. When he shot the first boy, mom said for them to run. They run outside, including her daughter, the boy's stepsister. Chad runs after them, grabs one, pulls him back in to execute him. Let me rewind that so you can hear it again.
His admission, father hunted that boy down, drug him back to the property, and executed him in front of witnesses.
On Friday, we found out prosecutors charged Chad Doerman with domestic violence in 2010 for allegedly choking his father, but authorities dropped the charge.
So they're saying back in 2010, so that would have been 13 years prior, there was an incident where Chad Doerman choked his father, Keith Doerman. So how can you be so surprised? If he's willing to hurt you, can you really be that shocked? Rewind that again so you can hear it. That's why he's so comfortable calling you and saying it's going to really be hard to do this to Clayton. He's telling you what's in his brain.
Violence in 2010 for allegedly choking his father, but authorities dropped the charge. Keith Doerman told me he can't figure out why his son would have done this. A lot of stuff out there that could make you flip, and I don't think there's enough research on that, alluding to the possibility his son Chad could be suffering from mental illness, but also said, I don't know if it was financial. I don't know if it was marital. I don't know if it's work-related. I don't know. Keith defended his son, saying he was a good kid and a good father, but said, I don't want nobody to badmouth him because this is a terrible thing he did, and I'm angry at him for it, but there's something deeper inside. That's all it is.
I just feel like that's delusional. That is delusional if dad doesn't think that his son, Chad Doerman, was incapable. He called you, he told you. You're in denial. He choked you 13 years prior. He was just never prosecuted for it. We always have to go back and look at the past of a person. We have to understand and see what is underneath. So let's get to one more video and then we'll do the law, crime, and network video, which is going to be very, very detailed. Wait, I think I have two videos. Yes, I do. This video, it says new court documents reveal details in the murder of 3 boys. So I will play this first. And this is by WCPO9. Then we'll get to his sentencing, Chad Doerman's sentencing.
Details are emerging about the horrific day on June 15th when Claremont County investigators say that Chad Doerman admitted to killing his 3 sons. I've received the bill of particulars from the investigation. The public document lays out what investigators say took place that day. A warning here that some details of this case can be uncomfortable to hear.
Stand up! Stand up now!
Chad Doerman was taken into custody without issue as he sat on the side of his home on June 15th. The bill of particulars document says he sat there and calmly watched his wife Laura undertake futile life-saving measures on her 3 children. It all began, according to the document, shortly after Chad Doerman came home early from work and asked his wife and 3 boys to join him in the master bedroom for a nap. The document says Doerman grabbed a Marlin model HC-22 caliber rifle from next to the bed in a gun safe and shot one son twice. Investigators say Doerman's wife immediately began to render aid to her son and yelled for her other children to run. The document says Doerman's stepdaughter walked into the room and witnessed the shooting and ran out of the back of the home, chasing after her brother, who was already running toward a field. Doerman, according to the document, gave chase and began shooting, hitting his son, knocking him to the ground. Doerman then walked up to his son, where he fired one shot into his head at close range. The document then lays out how the stepdaughter ran back toward the house and picked up the youngest son, Chase, and tried to run from the property. Doerman caught up to them and demanded that she put Chase down. When she did, Doerman attempted to shoot his son in the head, but the gun didn't fire. At that point, Chase ran to his mother on the side of the house where she was rendering aid to her other son. Doerman would eventually shoot Chase at close range, killing him. The document also reveals that Doerman's wife, Laura Hensley, fought back at one point. Hensley grabbed the firearm, placing her thumb over the barrel. Doerman then firing the rifle, shooting through her thumb. In the account of that day, the document says Doerman made several statements like, "I did it, take me to jail." It goes on to say Doerman admitted during a recorded interview that he had been thinking about shooting his sons since October, and it had been weighing so heavy on him that he hadn't slept for 3 or 4 days prior to murdering his 3 sons.
If you'd like to take a closer look, that is, at the entire bill of particulars tied to this case, we have put the entire document on WCPO.com.
Okay, everybody. So we're going to go to the next video that's going to show his sentencing. And then we're going to go to the Law and Crime Network's very thorough video to go through it all one last time. And then I'll have one article to wrap it all up. So let me share my screen. This video is 3 minutes. It's by WLWT5. It's titled Chad Doerman Gets Life in Prison Without Parole in Killings of His 3 Sons.
Trial for this Claremont County father who murdered his 3 little boys.
Today, Chad Doerman taking a plea deal that spares him the death penalty, but it will send him to prison for the rest of his life. WLWT News 5's Karen Johnson in the courtroom today, live for us right now in Batavia, explaining exactly what happened. Hi, Karen.
Before they explain it, I just want to say this. Due to the charges, before Mr. Doerman did the plea deal, he was death penalty eligible. And I think them resolving the case and the plea deal, it worked for his benefit, but also, so it's sparing his life. He doesn't have to be charged and face the death penalty. But also, and more importantly, this means that mom and his stepdaughter do not have to go through the brutal and agonizing pain of testifying to the events of what happened, what they saw, causing them to relive the account of what happened to the boys. So in a way, I have to support, and I'm sure the victims' advocates that worked with mom and the stepsister, I think they came to an agreement for the plea deal to prevent them from having to go publicly and say what happened in court, because that's extremely hard, extremely stressful, and it just reignites all of the memories. So let's hear what they have to say.
Yeah, hey, Mike, I know there is public outrage over his life being spared, but after the hearing, the prosecutor did hand me this. It is a letter, a statement from Doerman's ex-wife, Laura, and I want to read a portion of it. I am in full agreement with how the criminal case was resolved and the decision to end the criminal case with a plea. Having a guarantee that he will spend the rest of his life behind bars is what is best for my family. I'll keep in mind this plea deal now prevents Laura, it prevents her daughter Alexis from having to take the stand and relive what they experienced last year.
How do you plead?
Guilty. Guilty, a word Chad Doerman repeated 5 times today. Guilty of 3 counts of aggravated murder and 2 counts of felonious assault. His victims, his 3 young sons, 7-year-old Clayton, 4-year-old Hunter, and 3-year-old Chase, who Doerman gunned down and murdered at their own home. Doerman's ex-wife Laura and stepdaughter Alexis were also injured. Today, they stood feet away from Doerman as a prosecutor read their victim impact statements.
Chad, I trusted you with my life. And honestly, I looked up to you more than anyone. I saw you as my dad, not just a stepdad, because it hurts to know I will never get to experience another day with my 3 brothers or to make any memories anymore, because their innocent lives were taken away so quickly and horribly by their own father.
Laura's statement just as emotional as she wrote about trying to save her sons from her husband, who hunted down the children.
I was injured that day, fighting with every ounce of my body to just make it stop. I struggle every day, knowing I was not successful in doing so. And now I have to live with this and wonder what more I could have done to save them. I would do anything to push them on the swing, cover them up one more time, and hear their little ways of saying, I love you.
And Doerman did have an opportunity to speak, but he declined. His attorney said this never would have happened, but he was delusional and in psychosis when it happened. Coming up tonight at 7 o'clock, you're going to hear directly from the county prosecutor here in Claremont County, Mark DeCalve, more about his decision for this plea.
Okay. So I'm going to pull the Law and Crime Network's video because it's an excellent coverage done by them, very in-depth. And then we will end it all by wrapping it up with one last article. So I'm going to pull the video now from Law and Crime Network because I didn't intend to do it, so I have to grab it. I've already shared it on the Hidden Horror Facebook page. So let me see. I'm trying to get the video. Let me see. One second. Want to see if I can find the video. One second. My apologies. Okay, I've got it now. Okay. So let me share my screen so we can watch this together. It's an excellent video. Otherwise, if it wasn't, I wouldn't bring it to you. So let's go here. Let me enlarge it. It's by Law and Crime Network. It's titled Ohio Dad Admits to Executing 3 Young Sons, Learns Punishment.
As to count 1, aggravated murder in violation of 290301A, an unclassified felony. How do you plead? Guilty. Count 2, aggravated murder in violation of 290301A, an unclassified felony. How do you plead? Guilty.
Chad Doerman, the man who hunted down his 3 young sons on a summer day and shot them to death, pleads guilty.
He will die in prison.
The nightmare of attending court proceedings for the boy's family is over. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Chad Doerman will spend the rest of his life in prison. He has now admitted, after nearly 14 months, that he came home from work early on June 15th of last year and shot his 3 little boys. Clayton was just 7 years old, Hunter was 4, and Chase was 3. Clayton and Hunter played baseball in Claremont County, Ohio, east of Cincinnati. The boys' obituaries said that Chase one day wanted to play baseball just like his big brothers. Most little boys worship their fathers, and the Doerman boys were probably no different. But on that sunny summer day last summer, Chad Doerman committed the ultimate act of betrayal. He came home early from work, grabbed a Bible, and walked around the house mumbling, "Chad knows what's right." He was scaring his then wife as he tried to get into the gun safe in their bedroom. Doerman, according to court records, told her he was kidding. She was worried, so she and one of the boys laid down in bed with him. And then Doerman started shooting. Doerman's wife tried to save her boys, as did her older daughter, Doerman's stepdaughter. Doerman's now ex-wife grabbed the barrel of the gun, and he shot her through the thumb. She tried to get one of her boys to run, but the boy could not get away fast enough. Clayton, Chase, and Hunter's mom and sister could not stop the slaughter.
My daughter, she ran over to the fire department. Sit down. It's my stepdaughter. Put him in the cage.
Doerman was taken away by sheriff's deputies.
Can you get the wallet out of my back pocket? Shut up, dude. You have the right to remain silent.
There was little question that Doerman had committed these crimes, but he was innocent until proven guilty, as anyone else charged with a crime would be. Claremont County Prosecutor Mark Tacalvi announced his intent to seek the death penalty.
My goal is to have this man executed for slaughtering these 3 little boys.
But then Doerman's statement to law enforcement was suppressed because he had asked for a lawyer, and a detective continued to question him anyway. After that ruling from the judge, Doerman changed his plea to not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. He had essentially said he pulled the trigger, but didn't know what he was doing was wrong at the time because of mental illness.
And we're here this afternoon because I have been advised that a plea agreement has been reached in this matter.
That brings us to today, and Doerman pleading guilty to the aggravated murder of his...
So let me just say this. By his admission of guilt, his statement being thrown out, because after he was read his Miranda rights, he asked for an attorney and he was continually questioned. The statement was thrown out. I think sometimes the prosecutor may feel that because he's changing his plea to not guilty due to a reason of insanity, I think the prosecutor, they rather have a conviction versus what if this goes to a jury? The jury believes that there's some mental health issues, even undiagnosed, untreated, and that he's not guilty. So sometimes you take the greater risk of trying to disprove something like a mental illness, because if they can parade and demonstrate through people, through witnesses, through his medical records, if they were to choose to do that, of course, that typically he was a healthy man, he lived a normal life, he went to work every day, he had co-workers, he had friends, he was in relation with his parents, he had no prior acts or convictions. The prosecutor has to weigh that against, what if he gets a not guilty by reason of insanity? Would you want to get a guilty for maybe not all of the counts? He had over 20 charges. Would you want to get the guilty on at least 3 counts of murder versus all of the other accounts? Versus having to worry, what would a jury believe? What evidence can be submitted? They've already thrown out the guilty plea. Then that's also bringing into consideration that mom and the teenage sister would probably have to testify to secure the fact that he was the shooter slash killer slash executor of all 3 of the boys. So I think sometimes they will offer the plea. You're not getting the death penalty, but you are getting a conviction, and he doesn't have the possibility to get out of prison. So you have to weigh it all. But I'll continue the video.
His 3 little boys.
As to count 1, aggravated murder in violation of 290301A, an unclassified felony. How do you plead? Guilty. Count 2, aggravated murder in violation of 290301A, an unclassified felony.
Does that guilty just make you feel like he's kind of smug about it? It's just, I don't know. Every time I watch the video and hear him say guilty, it's like it's kind of smug. It's like a slap in the face. You know, I don't see any remorse. I don't see any feeling contrite, feeling like I made a mistake. I didn't do the right thing. It's very, just, I don't know, it makes me angry.
Felony, how do you plead? Guilty. Count 3, aggravated murder in violation of 290301A, an unclassified felony. How do you plead? Guilty.
Prosecutor Mark Tacalvi outlined what Doerman did on June 15th of last year.
The defendant did purposely and with prior calculation and design cause the death of his three children, Clayton Doerman, age 7, Hunter Doerman, age 4, and Chase Doerman, age 3. On that date, Judge, June 15, 2023, the defendant returned home early from work and had his family, including his wife, Laura Doerman.
I just want to pause it before he details everything. In some jurisdictions, they actually make the defendant actually recount what happened. They make him say it. They make him acknowledge his actions. They will not accept a guilty plea in some jurisdictions unless they can get on the record. If you're getting a plea for murder, they make you describe what you did. It's not enough just to accept it, but they make you detail it. You have to stand up. You have to say for each count those elements. And there's an understanding of why you're pleading guilty because the facts are supported with the charge. But they're not doing that in this case. So.
All three of the boys joined him in the master bedroom for a nap. At some point after lying down with the four of them, the defendant got out of bed, opened a gun safe that was next to the bed, removed a Marlin Model HC-22 rifle from the gun safe and loaded the magazine. The defendant shot his son, Hunter Doerman, twice while in the bedroom.
I just want to interject. Some of these shots were to the face and head. Very damaging, brutal, destructive.
His wife, Laura, began to render aid to Hunter and yelled for the other children to run. Laura's 14-year-old daughter, Alexis, who had been watching television in the family room, made her way to the master bedroom and witnessed the killing of Hunter. Alexis immediately began to run and indicated that Chasen had fled out the back door. Clayton had fled out the back door and that Chad Doerman was following Clayton. She ran to help to try to protect Clayton.
Tacalvi then described what happened outside of the home.
The three of them go out the back door. Clayton's first, then there's the defendant, and then Alexis. Alexis witnesses the defendant chase after Clayton, raised his rifle, fired numerous shots at Clayton as he fled, and saw Clayton fall in the field after he was struck by the gunfire. Alexis then watched as the defendant approached Clayton while he's injured, lying on the ground, defenseless, and saw the defendant put a bullet in Clayton's head, killing him.
Tacalvi said Laura Doerman then tried to save her baby, 3-year-old Chase.
Laura and the defendant struggled over the weapon. Laura was bitten. As she tried to protect Chase from the defendant bit her. She put her thumb over the end of the barrel in an effort to stop the bullet. She was shot in the thumb. Ultimately, she had to drop Chase. During this point in time, the defendant was able to reload the firearm. He pointed the gun at Chase's head and executed him, one round to his skull.
Unfortunately, the world is not always a safe place. And when accidents happen, you may need an attorney that's going for victims who were in life to win. Doerman's stepdaughter, Alexis Skeen, came into the courtroom. The judge ordered that she and her mother not be shown on camera. Alexis stared at Doerman as the prosecutor, Laura Barone Allen, read her statement.
Ever since what you've done, my life has been something I would never wish upon any family. It is the most heartbreaking and emotional thing anyone could go through. Chad, I miss you and I miss the boys dearly, and nothing will ever be the same again because of you. Whenever something exciting happens, I always just want to tell you because I know you would be so proud of me. Softball to me isn't the same anymore because that was our sport, and that was the boys' sport. You made me an amazing ball player, and whenever I play softball, there isn't one game where I don't think about you. And whenever I get a good hit or I learn a new pitch, I always wish I could tell you because I know you would be so proud of me. And when good things like that happen, it sucks to look on the sideline and not see you be there, and for the boys not to be cheering me on like they always did. And Chad, I still work very hard on my grades. And I was on the honor roll this past year. And I know for a fact, if you were there to see it, you would be so happy for me because my grades have always been so important to me. Another thing that has impacted me was every single holiday. Waking up on Christmas isn't the same anymore. I don't get excited. I don't even look forward to having presents because it's not the same. I don't get to wake up early and wake the boys up. I don't get to hide the elf. I don't get to do any of the fun stuff anymore because they're gone and you took their lives. And Chad, when you go to bed every single night, I want you to know that when you took those 3 boys' lives away, you took mine and you took my mom's. Chad, I don't think you understand how hard it is to wake up every day and to see my friends and people around me have siblings and to hear them talk about what they did with their siblings that day or how much they enjoy having a brother. Because deep down, that hurts me so badly and so emotionally because it hurts to know I will never get to experience another day with my 3 brothers or to make any memories anymore because their innocent lives were taken away so quickly and horribly by their own father.
The prosecutor then read the statement of Laura Doerman, Chad Doerman's now ex-wife, the mother of Clayton, Hunter, and Chase, who desperately tried to save her boys' lives.
My life was changed forever. My life was ripped away from me and destroyed. Since that day, I have spent every day grieving the loss of my 3 sweet, so very little sons. I grieve the loss of Clayton, Hunter, and Chase every single day, and I grieve the life that they did not get to live. I no longer get to raise them and watch them grow. I miss each one of them so very much. I miss their laughter, silliness, love, and joy for life. Where there used to be so much laughter, happiness, noise of rowdy little boys, there is now silence and emptiness. I would do anything to push them on the swing, cover them up one more time, and hear their little ways of saying, I love you. All of it gone when I should have had so much more life left to live with them. I ask myself how a mother is supposed to carry on a life as a mom with 1 child left here on earth and 3 gone forever. I struggle every day with the will to get up or give up. Life for me is the true pain and suffering. I will never agree to think that any form of punishment could amount to the form of torture and suffering I have to endure each day, such as seeing children and seeing siblings together as I watch Alexis be without her brothers and seeing families together as I no longer have mine. Having to live a life where I'm visiting the same places I once was with Clayton, Hunter, and Chase all together. Traveling in the car and no longer seeing them in the rearview mirror.
Today I went on the best first date of my entire life, which I've never said about someone I met online, but
This also includes our family home that holds so many memories that I cannot let go of. But now it's just a devastating to face. Again, so empty and quiet. I was injured that day, fighting with every ounce of my body to just make it stop. I struggle every day, knowing I was not successful in doing so. And now I have to live with this and wonder what more I could have done to save them.
Laura Doerman has asked that the media not contact her or her family. She wants people to talk about her 3 boys for who they were before they were murdered. In a statement she wrote, "Remember them as 3 little boys who loved fishing, go-karting, and swimming. Remember them as the little boys who were always at the baseball fields or running around outside. Remember them as the boys who loved to have fun and were inseparable from one another. Their lives are not about what happened to them. They are so much more than that." Doerman's lawyer then spoke on his behalf.
With acknowledgement of the pain and the suffering, and the fact that these 3 beautiful boys are gone, Chad would never have done that, except that he was delusional. He was in psychosis when this happened. All 3 psychologists basically acknowledged that. Dr. Dreyer acknowledged it. They don't agree on whether it qualifies as long enough for serious mental illness or whether he had some appreciation of the legal wrongfulness of what he did. But the fact is, he loved those boys more than anything. And he was ill. He was sick.
Listen, I don't want to be harsh, but you can't say you love someone and execute them, raise a gun to their head, their body, their face, and pull the trigger, hunt them down, chase them down, shoot them. That's no love. That's evil.
Profoundly sick at the time. There's nothing more he can say at this point except that he's sorry about that. He did it. He acknowledges that.
Well, let's stop here. When you're offered an opportunity to speak, you don't take it. You don't acknowledge what happened. You don't apologize. You don't say you regret it. You don't say you wish you could take it back. You don't say anything. You're a monster.
He's taking responsibility for it. He can't bring those boys back to do anything to do it. I think he would wish that he stayed at the little clinic for a little longer than he did. I think he wished that in hindsight he
went to the clinic for 2 minutes. 2 minutes. You needed help. You could have left. You could have went to a hospital. You could have walked into the ER. You could have called your doctor. You could have talked to your parents. You could have surrendered the weapons. You could have had your wife and kids leave. You could have removed yourself. But you didn't do any of those things. You walked around and you said, Chad knows right. You used the Bible. You lied to your wife and said you were just playing because they were in fear of what you were going to do. They were afraid. They were scared, and you manipulated them to get them to come in the room.
Signs there before this happened. Tried to power through it. He wouldn't do that again. And until it was too late, he couldn't. It was out of control.
Anything further on behalf?
No.
Mr. Doerman, is there anything you want to say on your own behalf before I?
It was never too late. You chased your son down outside. You chased your stepdaughter down, told her to put him down. And you executed him. He ran from you. He ran to his mother for protection from you. You're a monster. You were a monster to your own sons. 3 years old, 4 years old, 7 years old.
Imposed sentence? No.
You're a coward.
Mr. Doerman, as to count one, I'll impose a prison sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. No fine will be imposed. As to count two, it'll be a life prison term without the chance of parole. And count three, it'll be life in prison without the possibility of parole. These three counts and these three sentences will be served consecutively with one another.
Prosecutor Tecalvi explained why he agreed to this plea deal after being so adamant early on that he would seek the death penalty against Doerman.
The defense approached us Tuesday morning and inquired about life without parole. We brought in Laura the next morning, Wednesday morning, and had a very lengthy discussion with her. I cannot state to any level of significance the inordinate trauma that she has experienced. We have met with her 6 or 8 times, and it is painful to her. It is difficult for my assistant prosecutors, difficult for hardened, seasoned law enforcement, and my position became fairly clear to me throughout this process, and most recently Wednesday when we discussed this plea offer with Laura, that doing anything further would be actually an act of cruelty towards her. We had prepared her to testify. She was ready to testify next week. Alexis was ready to testify, but the trauma that these two experienced that day and continue to experience on a daily basis. My job, as I saw it this week, was to relieve them of that additional agony.
Tecalvi and other people on the prosecution team plan to release more information about the investigation during a press conference on Monday to reveal what he says was going on behind the scenes at the time that the murders occurred. That's it for Crime Fix.
So great coverage by Crime Fix. I want to bring all of this together and wrap it up with an article by WLWT5. It's titled Family Releases Statement After Chad Doerman Gets Life in Prison and Killings of His 3 Sons. The article is dated August 5th, 2024, and it's written by Matthew Dietz. Chad Doerman, the Clermont County man accused of shooting and killing his 3 sons last summer, pleaded guilty Friday to 3 counts of aggravated murder. He also pleaded guilty to 2 counts of felonious assault, felonies of the 2nd degree for injuries to his former wife and stepdaughter. In exchange, all of the aggravating circumstances that would have made him eligible for the death penalty are being dismissed. Judge Richard Ferenc sentenced Doerman to 3 life sentences without parole, running consecutively with 16 years minimum sentencing for the assault charges. Doerman was arrested last June after investigators said he shot and killed his three sons, 3-year-old Chase Doerman, 4-year-old Hunter Doerman, and 7-year-old Clayton Doerman. He was initially indicted on 21 charges, including 9 counts of aggravated murder. On Friday in Clermont County Court, Laura Doerman, the former wife of Chad Doerman, gave an emotional statement through a victim advocate saying no punishment will bring her sons back. I'm in full agreement with how the criminal case was resolved, and the decision to end this criminal case with a plea and multiple life sentences brings some finality to the court case for my daughter and me. No punishment will ever bring my boys back. Having a guarantee that he will spend the rest of his life behind bars is what's best for my family, the statement read in part. I'll read the statement. Good afternoon. My name is Laura Doerman, and I am the mother of Alexis, Clayton, Hunter, and Chase. On June 15, 2023, my children and I went through a nightmare that most people cannot begin to imagine. We grieve every day for my boys, and we miss them so much. I understand that the plea and sentencing today may have come as a surprise to some people, and that many people still have questions about what happened to Clayton, Hunter, and Chase. I know the prosecutor's office will be answering some of those questions at the press conference on Monday. I am in full agreement with how the criminal case was resolved and the decision to end this criminal case with a plea and multiple life sentences brings some finality to the court case for my daughter and me. No punishment will ever bring my boys back. Having a guarantee that he will spend the rest of his life behind bars is what is best for my family. I would like to thank the Clermont County Sheriff's Office for all of their work on this case, especially Detective Mike Ross and Sean Schubert. I'd like to thank all of the first responding officers and firefighters, paramedics who were there that day and did what they could for my boys and my family. Finally, I'd like to thank the prosecution team for their support and assistance through the court process. I have 2 requests from everyone here and everyone watching this. First, please respect my family's privacy. We do not want media or individuals to try to contact us about this case. My daughter and I are real people who have to wake up every day and try to go on with our lives after losing the boys. We may just be a news story to you, but this is our reality. If you have any questions, please direct them to the prosecutor's office. My second request is for everyone to remember and to talk about Clayton, Hunter, and Chase for who they were before the events of June 15th, 2023. Remember them as the 3 little boys who loved fishing, go-karting, and swimming. Remember them as the little boys who were always at the baseball fields or running around outside. Remember them as the boys who loved to have fun and were inseparable from one another. Their lives are not only about what happened to them, they are so much more than that. I love you, Clayton, Hunter, and Chase. Okay. pretty devastating, pretty sad, horrific, and totally preventable. What can we do? What can we do as a community, as individuals, if we see someone that is having distress, if they're struggling mentally? We need to try to get them in front of someone to assess their needs. How do we get this to end, to stop, to be reduced, to eliminate out of the community? We have to have resources that can help people, that can identify the triggers that are setting people off before it gets to this. In this case, Chad Doerman, he called his mother. He went to the local clinic. He called his father. He indicated at home disturbing behavior. He manipulated the boys, his wife. Yes, he did. But can we see signs? Can we identify things that could trigger, that could set off, that could be the starting point before something as tragic as this happens? I think we can. I know we can. I just want to share this information so we don't keep having these awful cases. Please let me know what you think. Write some ideas in the comments of how we can turn this around to help people that are mentally struggling, that could be either homicidal, suicidal, or both. This is what the Monster series is going to bring. We're going to look at cases. We're going to try to figure out the mindset of these people that I feel they're either homicidal, suicidal, or both. What can we do? How can we prevent this? How can we stop this from happening? We're seeing it over and over and over, and it's like no one is addressing it. No one's seeing the red flags. But if we don't, we're going to continue to see this level of violence in our communities. Let's end this video by remembering the boys. Chase, he was 3 years old. Hunter was 4 years old, and Clayton was 7 years old. They like to be together. They like to have fun. They like to play. They like baseball. They like to go fishing. They love spending time with the family, their big sister. Let's remember them now. I want to thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for going on this journey. Please remember, I want you to stay safe, stay smart, stay savvy. Thank you again for this time. We're going to share a picture of the boys together.